Most people will never discover the true potential of creative visualization. It is a silent tragedy of our times, millions of individuals sitting silently, eyes closed, visualizing abundance, success, and achievement only to open their eyes and return to the same limited reality they tried to transcend. Have you ever wondered why so many people follow modern visualization techniques and stay right where they are? Why do they visualize wealth while their bank accounts remain empty? Why do they imagine vibrant health while their bodies remain out of balance? Why do they create mental images of harmonious relationships while discord persists in their lives? The problem is not that the preview doesn't work. The problem is that practically no one is viewing it correctly. There's a fundamental mistake that virtually everyone makes, an error so subtle and yet so profound that it turns the powerful practice of visualization into a mere daydream. An error that Wattles, one of the greatest masters of conscious manifestation, identified more than a century ago. In his revolutionary work, Wattles discovered that the difference between those who manifest their visions and those who only dream about them is not in the intensity of their visualizations. It's not in the details you include in your mental images. It's not even in the consistency of your practice. The difference lies in a fundamental understanding of time. 99% of people create mental images of things they want to have, be, or experience at some point in the future. They project their visions forward, creating a temporal separation between where they are and what they want. They are, without realizing it, communicating to the universe, "This is not my current reality. This is something I want to come to me eventually," in the universe, responding precisely to this vibration of separation, keeps the desired exactly where it was placed in a future that never fully materializes. Think about the last time you viewed something meaningful. Was it an exercise in envisioning something you would like to have one day? Or was it a deep recognition of something that is already yours on the spiritual plane, just awaiting physical expression? The answer to this question reveals everything about why your visualizations produce results or just continued frustration. What Wattles discovered, and what has been systematically watered down and misinterpreted in modern teachings on the law of attraction, is that true visualization is not an exercise in future projection. It is an act of present recognition. This is the fundamental error. We visualize forward when we should be visualizing now. And when we begin to understand this transformative truth, when we understand the science of present time and visualization, something extraordinary happens. The doors that separated our dreams from our reality begin to dissolve. The line between the invisible and the visible becomes thinner. But before we reveal the exact technique that completely transforms how you visualize, we need to better understand the man behind this discovery and why his methods produce results when so many others fail. Wattles was not born into extraordinary circumstances. On the contrary, in the late 1800s, he was just a poor farmer in Indiana, struggling to support his family amid constant financial hardship. Nothing in his early life indicated that he would become one of the most influential thinkers on prosperity and conscious manifestation. He was a man who knew failure intimately. For years, Wattles experimented with virtually every personal growth philosophy and system available in his day. He studied Eastern and Western religions exhaustively. He immersed himself in the works of American transcendentalists such as Emerson and Thoreau. He explored New Thought, Christian Science, and various metaphysical systems. What made Wattles truly extraordinary was his ability to synthesize this vast knowledge and test it in the furnace of his own experience. He was not an armchair theorist. He was a relentless experimenter, applying metaphysical principles to physical reality and meticulously observing the results. Gradually, through this combination of intense study and practical application, Wattles transformed his own life from poverty to prosperity. His health improved drastically. His finances flourished. His family relationship harmonized. And all this through the application of principles that he eventually documented in his best-known work, The Science of Getting Rich, published in 1910. This little book, simple in language but profound in wisdom, has become the basis for virtually all modern work on conscious manifestation. The bestseller The Secret is, in large part, a reinterpretation of the principles established by Wattles. Virtually all contemporary personal development gurus have built their systems on the foundation that Wattles laid. However, as often happens when deep knowledge undergoes multiple reinterpretations, something essential has been lost. Modern visualization techniques are, for the most part, diluted and distorted versions of the pure and powerful system that Wattles developed. What fundamentally distinguishes Wattles' approach is his understanding of formless substance, the unified field of intelligence and potential from which all physical creation emerges. Wattles understood that this substance responds to human thought not as a mechanical servant, but as a conscious partner in the creative process. He understood that this substance does not exist in a realm separate from physical reality, but permeates everything, including our own bodies and minds. There is no real separation between the creator and the created, between the viewer and the viewer. This deep understanding of the essential unity between thought and manifestation is what makes Wattles' methods so powerful. He wasn't simply asking the universe. He was recognizing the fundamental nature of reality and consciously aligning himself with it. His methods work because they are based not on superficial mind-control techniques, but on universal laws that govern the expression of consciousness and form. They work because they recognize the true nature of time and manifestation. They work because they are in harmony with the very structure of reality. In the heart of his system, the central principle that completely transforms the process of visualization is his revolutionary understanding of the nature of time and conscious creation. The biggest obstacle between you and manifesting your desires is not in the outside world. It's not the economy. It's not the people around you. It's not even your current circumstances. The greatest obstacle lies in a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of time. In conscious creation, our conventional experience of time is linear. Past, present, and future seem distinct and separate. This ordinary perception leads us to a dangerous fallacy in the practice of visualization, the projection of our desires into a future moment. When you say, "I will be rich," "I will have perfect health," or "I will find the ideal partner," you are unconsciously creating a separation between you and your desire. This future orientation seems harmless, even natural. After all, you are visualizing something that has not yet appeared in your physical reality. But here is Wattles' crucial revelation. The universe, the formless substance, does not operate within the linearity of time as we experience it. For the creative intelligence of the cosmos, there is only the eternal present. When you visualize something as a future experience, you are vibrationally declaring its current absence. It is literally instructing the universe to keep this desire in a state of perpetual becoming, never fully arriving. The energetic difference between "I will have" and "I have" is abysmal. The first is an assertion of absence, the second, an affirmation of presence. And the formless substance responds not to your words or even your mental images, but to your essential vibration, your deep feeling of having or not having. Wattles understood this decades before quantum physics began to reveal the nonlinear nature of time and the observer's influence on reality. He realized that at the quantum level of creation, everything simultaneously exists in a state of potentiality. Manifestation is not a matter of creating something new, but of aligning yourself with what already exists in potential form. Our temporal conditioning, our fixation on the future, creates a perpetual cycle of lag. The more intensely we visualize something as a future experience, the more we reinforce its absence in our present. It's a cruel paradox that keeps millions of people stuck in a limbo of incomplete manifestation. Can you recognize this pattern in your own practice? Look closely the next time you close your eyes to visualize. Is there a subtle feeling that you are imagining something that isn't real yet? Is there a someday quality to your visualization? Do you feel, even slightly, separated from what you are visualizing? If so, you've fallen into the trap of the future fallacy, the most common and devastating mistake in the practice of visualization. A simple exercise can help catch this error. As you visualize, ask yourself, where am I placing this experience in time? The honest answer reveals whether you are truly aligned with the Wattles method or whether you are inadvertently perpetuating the separation to transcend. this fallacy. We need to understand that effective visualization is not a matter of projecting images into the future. It is a matter of tuning into what already exists in the eternal now, the only moment that formless substance recognizes. When Wattles stated, "Think of the truth of what you desire, not of its appearance," he was instructing his readers to recognize a deeper truth beyond the limitations of linear time. The truth of your desire already exists in the formless substance. The appearance is simply the temporary expression of the limitation that your habitual consciousness accepts. This understanding is not just philosophical, it is intensely practical. It completely transforms the process of visualization from an attempt to change the future to an act of alignment with a reality already present in the quantum field. And this alignment is what Wattles called thinking a certain way, the core of his science of wealth and achievement. The real question, therefore, is not how to create something new through visualization, but how to recognize and align with what already exists in potential. And this leads us to a revolutionary understanding. Visualization is not an act of creation. It is an act of recognition. The most revolutionary concept in Wattles' approach, and the most often misunderstood, is that true visualization is not a process of creating something new. It is an act of recognizing what already exists in potential form in the formless substance. This distinction may seem semantic at first glance, but it contains a profound transformation that changes everything about how you visualize and, consequently, what you manifest. Wattles understood that everything we desire, every experience, relationship, material circumstance already exists as potential in the intelligent, responsive substance that constitutes the universe. Nothing needs to be created in the absolute sense. Everything already exists in unmanifest form, awaiting recognition. When you try to create something through visualization, you inadvertently position yourself as separate from that thing. You see yourself as the maker and the object of your desire as something to be made, a dichotomy that perpetuates the very separation that prevents manifestation. But when you view it as an act of recognition, something profoundly different occurs. You are not asking the universe. It is not trying to generate something through mental effort. You are simply aligning your conscious perception with what is already true at the most fundamental level of reality. It's like tuning a radio. The station is already broadcasting. You are not creating the program. You are simply adjusting your receiver to pick up a frequency that is already in the air. This understanding frees you from the burden of trying to work hard on your visualizations. Many people approach visualization as a type of mental effort, trying to concentrate intensely, create clear images, and maintain rigorous focus. They believe that the harder they work mentally, the better the results will be. Wattles saw this as a complete reversal of the truth. Effective visualization does not require intense effort, but calm acceptance. It is not an act of creating, but of receiving. It is not an exercise in willpower, but in conscious surrender. Consider the inspiring story of Helen Keller, who was blind and deaf since childhood. She could not see in the conventional sense, but her ability to perceive and understand the world was extraordinary. It recognized realities beyond direct sensory perception. In his own words, the best and most beautiful thing in the world cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt with the heart. This is the exact principle that Wattles understood about effective visualization. When you visualize correctly, you are not trying to see something that doesn't exist yet. You are feeling with your heart, recognizing a truth that already exists beyond physical appearance. This is the difference between ordinary imagination and true creative visualization. The common imagination creates images without the essential element of recognition. It's an interesting mental exercise, but it lacks transformative power. Visualization, in the sense that Wattles taught, is an act of deep perception, seeing with the inner eye what already exists in the formless substance. This recognition requires a specific quality of consciousness. It is not a state of desire or longing, which implies absence and separation. It is a state of calm acceptance and present gratitude, recognizing what is already yours on the unmanifest plane. Effective visualization, therefore, is not a request to the universe. It is not a negotiation with cosmic forces. It is a conscious alignment with what has already been granted potential. It is an act of saying yes to what already exists, rather than asking for what does not exist. This understanding completely transforms the internal quality of your practice. It frees you from the anxiety of when and how your desires will manifest. It allows you to rest in the absolute confidence that what you recognize as true in your mind's eye is already real at the most fundamental level, just waiting for the perfect moment to express itself in physical form. As Wattles wrote, man can form things in his thought, and, by impressing his thought on the formless substance, can cause the creation of the thing he thinks of. This impression is not a creation from scratch. It is recognition of what has always been available, just awaiting your conscious alignment. With this transformative understanding, we are ready to explore Wattles' exact technique, the practical step-by-step method he developed for aligning human consciousness with the limitless power of formless substance. The power of Wattles' method lies in its simplicity, stripped of unnecessary complexities and esoteric jargon. His three-step process offers a direct path to alignment with formless substance. Let's explore this exact technique as originally conceived, before modern interpretations complicated or diluted it. The first step is to see with crystal clarity. This goes far beyond mere vague imagination. Wattles instructed his students to form a clear and definite mental picture of what they want. This image must be specific, detailed, and complete. It's not an approximation or an outline. It's a clear perception. Imagine you are looking at a photograph of your desired reality, not an impressionist painting. If you want a house, look at every detail: the exact color of the walls, the texture of the floor beneath your feet, the light coming in through the windows. If you want a thriving business, see happy customers, see yourself making transactions, see the exact numbers in your financial reports. This clarity of vision is essential because formless substance responds to precision. As Wattles wrote, the reason most people fail to achieve results is that they have no clear concept or idea of what they want and how it should be done. But, and here's the crucial distinction, you're not imagining something in the future. You are seeing something that already exists in the field of infinite potentiality. This is not a projection forward, but a recognition of what already is. The second step is to feel the full reality of the experience. Purely intellectual or pictorial visualization is insufficient. Wattles understood that the formless substance responds not just to thought, but to thought imbued with feeling. This feeling is what gives life and power to the mental image. You must engage all of your senses. If you visualize prosperity, feel the specific feeling of financial security in your body. Feel the tranquility, the freedom, the generosity that abundance allows. If you visualize health, feel the vibrant energy, the vitality, the strength flowing through each cell. Again, this is not a feeling of future anticipation, but of present reality. You're not trying to feel what it would be like to have what you want. You are recognizing and experiencing the feeling of already having it, here and now, in the only moment that formless substance recognizes the eternal present. The third and most crucial step is recognized with calm certainty. This is the element that most modern approaches completely omit or confuse. Effective visualization culminates in a state of absolute acceptance. There is no doubt, there is no questioning, there is no anxiety about when or how the manifestation will occur. Wattles described this as an unshakable certainty. It is not a forced conviction or repetitive self-affirmation. It is a calm, centered recognition that what you see and feel in your consciousness is already real at the most fundamental level and will inevitably express itself in physical form. As he wrote, live in the new house mentally until it takes shape around you physically. This is the essence of recognition, mentally living in the desired reality, not as an escapist fantasy, but as a conscious alignment with what already exists in potential. A vital part of this technique that is often overlooked involves transforming gratitude. Most modern approaches encourage anticipatory gratitude, giving thanks for something that will come in the future. Wattles understood that this perpetuates temporal separation. True gratitude and effective visualization is present gratitude for what is already yours, just awaiting expression on the physical plane. Let's practice this technique in its pure form through a guided exercise. Close your eyes and choose something specific you want to manifest. Don't start with your biggest dreams. Start with something you can accept as possible without much resistance. First, see it with absolute clarity, not as a potential future, but as an already existing reality. Observe every detail with precision, as if you were looking at a clear photograph. Now fully feel the reality of this experience. Let the feeling permeate your entire being. It is not a feeling of desire or hope, but of recognition and acceptance. Finally, rest in peaceful certainty. Recognize that what you see and feel is already real at the most fundamental level. There is no need to force, fight, or question. Just accept it. Remain in this state of recognition for a few minutes, breathing naturally, allowing your consciousness to completely align with this reality. When you open your eyes, hold this calm certainty. Do not allow the world of appearances to rob you of this recognition. Remember, physical appearance is temporary. The truth you recognized is eternal. This technique, practiced daily even briefly, establishes a vibrational pattern that inevitably expresses itself in corresponding external circumstances. It's not magic or superficial positive thinking. It is applied spiritual science, as discovered and articulated by Wattles. But for this technique to produce consistent results, you must understand the crucial role of persistence in uninterrupted thinking, the true secret to maintaining alignment with formless substance. The least understood aspect of Wattles' science of visualization, and potentially the most powerful, is the need for what he called uninterrupted thinking. This concept goes far beyond simple consistency of practice, touching on the true nature of how we maintain alignment with formless substance. Most people approach visualization as a separate practice, a few minutes in the morning, maybe a few minutes at night, focusing intensely on their mental images. They believe that the intensity of their concentration during these sessions is what determines their effectiveness. Wattles discovered a different truth. Persistence is infinitely more powerful than intensity. He wrote, in holding an image in your mind, it is not necessary to constantly fix your attention on it. What is necessary is to maintain the intention to receive what you desire, and the faith and conviction that you have already received it. In other words, it is not the strength of your concentration that matters, but the underlying continuity of your conviction. This is not a matter of repeating intense visualizations, but of maintaining a consistent mental orientation throughout the day. The biggest challenge in this process is the contradictory thoughts that inevitably arise. Between visualization sessions, you may visualize prosperity in the morning, but then spend the day worrying about bills, complaining about financial limitations, or feeling envious of others' abundance. These contradictory thoughts completely neutralize the work done during visualization. As Wattles explained, you cannot cultivate for 1 hour and do this work the next hour, and expect to see the growth of desirable things in your life. This is the pattern that sabotages most practitioners. Positive visualization followed by habitual negative thinking. They don't realize that the universe responds not to their moments of intense visualization, but to the prevailing quality of their thinking over time. This is the law of predominance. The thought that prevails in your consciousness is the one that manifests, regardless of the intensity of occasional visualizations. Developing persistence in right thinking requires a type of mental discipline that few people cultivate. It's not a matter of suppressing negative thoughts or fighting doubts and fears. It is a matter of gently persisting and returning to recognizing the truth. A practical technique for strengthening the mental muscle of constant visualization is what we might call micro-recognitions throughout the day. These are brief moments, 3 to 5 seconds, when you consciously reconnect with the reality you have formally visualized. It does not require you to close your eyes or stop your activities. It is simply a time of internal alignment, remembering the truth you recognized during your formal practice. For example, if you are visualizing prosperity, a micro-recognition could be simply briefly feeling the sensation of abundance while waiting in line or driving to work. If you are visualizing perfect health, it could be a time to feel vitality flowing through your body as you walk from one room to another. These brief moments, repeated many times a day, create continuity in the thought pattern that is much more powerful than occasional intense visualizations. They prevent contradictory thoughts from gaining ground and keep your vibrational field consistently aligned with what you want to manifest. Another technique Wattles recommended was integrating visualization into everyday life without formal meditations. He taught his students to think the truth in all circumstances, especially when faced with appearances that contradict their desires. When you face a situation that seems opposite to what you are visualizing, perhaps an unexpected bill, when you are focused on prosperity, or a symptom of illness, when you are visualizing health, this is exactly the time to internally reaffirm the truth you have recognized. It is not a denial of physical reality, but a recognition of a deeper truth. As Wattles wrote, "Do not deny the appearance of things, deny their reality. The things you see are only appearances and are undergoing changes from one form to another. Your destiny is a better form." This ability to maintain recognition of truth even when faced with seemingly contradictory evidence is the mark of a master in the science of visualization. It's not easy, but it is precisely in these moments that your power of conscious creation is most potent. Remember, one constant thought beats 1,000 occasional intense views. Consistency is the secret to powerful manifestation. As Wattles said, the right way is not difficult, but people do not always have the perseverance to practice it until it becomes a habit. When you develop this persistence in aligned thinking, extraordinary results begin to appear in your life, not just the specific manifestations you envisioned, but profound transformations that transcend your initial expectations. The results that arise from consistent application of the Wattles technique often surprise even the most dedicated practitioners. This is because external transformations are only the visible reflection of a much deeper change that occurs internally. Consider the story of Maria, a high school teacher who applied Wattles' exact method to manifest financial security. For years, she had struggled with persistent debt and chronic financial anxiety. I had tried several modern visualization techniques without significant results. When he discovered Wattles' original work and began practicing visualization as present recognition, not future projection, something remarkable happened. And for months, not only were her debts eliminated through a series of unexpected opportunities, but her fundamental relationship with money was completely transformed. What surprised me most, Maria shared, was not the extra money that began to appear, but the deep sense of peace that settled within me. The anxiety that had plagued me for decades simply dissolved. I realized that the real miracle was not the change in my circumstances, but the change in my consciousness. Or consider Andre, an entrepreneur who used the Wattles technique to turn around a struggling business. Instead of visualizing future success, he began to recognize success as a reality that already existed on the unmanifest plane. In less than 6 months, his business not only recovered, but thrived in ways he had never imagined. Most significantly, Andre reported, synchronicities began to happen so frequently that they could not be explained as coincidences. It was as if the universe was conspiring in my favor. People, opportunities, and resources appeared precisely when they were needed, often before I even realized they were needed. This is a common feature for those who have mastered the Wattles technique. The emergence of remarkable synchronicities that facilitate manifestation in unpredictable and elegant ways. It is as if the entire field of reality begins to reorganize itself to support what has been recognized internally. Another frequently reported result is the awakening of intuition. Sophia, an artist who applied the method to expand her creative expression, found that her intuition became exceptionally sharp. I began to receive creative insights that seemed to come from a source beyond my conscious mind. She explained, it was as if, by aligning myself with the formless substance through correct visualization, I had opened a channel for a continuous flow of inspiration. This strengthened intuitive connection is a natural side effect of consistent alignment with formless substance. When you practice the Wattles technique regularly, the boundary between your individual consciousness and universal intelligence becomes more permeable. Information and inspiration begin to flow more freely, a particularly significant aspect of Wattles' approach is that it transcends simple material acquisition. Carlos, a doctor who initially used the method to improve his financial situation, discovered that the deeper benefits were spiritual. I started out seeking material prosperity, he shared, but I found an inner richness that I had never imagined possible. A mental clarity, an emotional peace, a connection to something greater than myself. Financial abundance came, yes, but it seems almost secondary compared to the internal transformation. This is a consistent pattern among serious practitioners of the Wattles technique. The external manifestation is just the tip of the iceberg. True transformation occurs in consciousness, and it is this internal change that sustains and expands external results over time. Before the full physical manifestations appear, you may notice subtle signs that the technique is working. An inexplicable feeling of peace or certainty, small synchronicities, changes in how people respond to you, a flow of creative ideas. These are indicators that your infield alignment is starting to affect the outfield even before tangible changes are evident. Elena, a therapist who used the technique to attract the ideal partner, noted, "Weeks before I met my husband, I began to feel a calm certainty that he was already in my life. It wasn't hope or desire, it was recognition. When we finally met, it was like recognizing someone I already knew deeply." These stories represent just a small sample of the countless individuals whose lives have been transformed through the faithful application of Wattles' original technique. They are not isolated cases or statistical anomalies. They are examples of what happens naturally when human consciousness aligns with the laws that govern manifestation. By practicing this technique, you join a lineage of individuals who have discovered how to transcend the limitations of conventional reality through the power of aligned thought. It is not a path for the chosen few or especially gifted people. It is a birthright available to anyone willing to apply the principles persistently and faithfully. As Wattles wrote, "Man was made to grow, to create, never to cease to give greater expression to greater possibilities." Everything in substance responds to his advance, everything moves to serve him, and nothing opposes him. Man was born to be rich. Wallace D. Wattles' visualization technique remains one of the most powerful tools for conscious manifestation ever developed. In its elegant simplicity lies a transformative power that transcends fads and passing techniques. What makes this method so revolutionary is precisely what makes it challenging for many. It requires a fundamental shift in how we perceive time and reality. Visualize not as future creation, but as present recognition. Not as a request to the universe, but as an alignment with what already exists in potential. The ultimate paradox of this approach is that the less you try, the more you get. Excessive effort, forced visualization, intense concentration, these are all symptoms of a misunderstanding of the process. True power comes from quiet acceptance, calm recognition, unshakable certainty. It's time to completely abandon the ineffective modern techniques that keep your desires perpetually in the future. It is time to return to the purity of the original method, tested and proven through more than a century of application by serious seekers around the world. The invitation to you is simple. Dedicate 5 minutes daily to practicing this technique in its pure form. Not as a self-help exercise, but as an act of conscious alignment with the deepest truth of your being in the universe. See with absolute clarity, feel with all your being, recognize with certainty, and then carry this recognition with you throughout the day through micro moments of realignment. This simple daily commitment can fundamentally transform not only your external circumstances, but your internal experience of life. Anxiety gives way to peace. Struggle gives way to flow. Separation gives way to unity. As you begin to experience results subtle at first, then increasingly tangible, share them. Join the growing community of practitioners who are rediscovering and applying Wattles' original wisdom in a world that desperately needs this deeper understanding. Always remember, you don't need new techniques. You need the original technique, applied correctly. Authentic visualization is not future imagination. It is present recognition of what is already yours on the most fundamental plane of reality. The time to start is now, not in preparation for future manifestations, but in alignment with the abundance, health, love, and fulfillment that are already yours. The only question that remains is, are you willing to recognize the truth that has always been there, waiting only for your conscious alignment?